continue to honor veterans with a public picture display here, which is what we do as reenactors of the First and Second World Wars. When the American Expeditionary Forces Commander John J. Pershing dedicated the American cemeteries in France after World War I, his words have carried for more than 100 years. Time will not dim the glory of their deeds. This is why we continue to honor veterans of all branches today and to honor our war dead on Memorial Day. Today we wear the uniforms of our grandparents and great-grandparents to keep their stories alive. There are no more veterans of World War I left. This is why it is extra special for us to welcome our honored guest here to stand for all veterans who served in World War II, which has its 70th anniversary this year. And we have a local Manhattan veteran with us. Lieutenant Seymour Spiegel is 96 years old. When he was 20, he was a B-17 Violet in the 490th Bomb Group and flew 35 missions over Germany. He was also held as a prisoner of war and escaped, flying his entire crew to safety in Italy. The son of a laundry worker, he was born in Borough Park, Brooklyn, and moved as a young man to Greenwich Village with his parents. He enlisted when he was 18 and went from mechanical to aviation training. Lieutenant Spiegel took advanced training in Douglas, Arizona. In New Mexico, he learned to fly the B-17 Flying Fortress and flew one to England. After 35 missions, Lieutenant Spiegel was discharged in 1945. In addition, Lieutenant Spiegel might be the last Jewish World War II pilot alive. To recognize Lieutenant Spiegel, we are honored to have with us today Lieutenant Colonel James Hendon, the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Veterans Services. The DVS connects, mobilizes, and empowers New York City's veterans community in order to foster purpose-driven lives for service members, past and present, in addition to their caregivers, survivors, and families. The Colonel spent 7 years in the U.S. Army on active duty as an infantry officer, where he deployed as a mortar platoon leader and battalion public affairs officer to Iraq, and served as the senior advisor to the Afghan border police in Afghanistan. Colonel Hendon is a 2002 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and a graduate of Harvard's Kennedy School and Columbia Business School. Today he serves in the U.S. Army Reserves as the New York City lead for the 70th Innovation Command. Please welcome Colonel Hendon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those remarks. Good afternoon, everyone, on this rainy but beautiful and glorious Veterans Day. As was mentioned, my name is James Hendon. I serve as Commissioner for the New York City Department of Veterans Services. And, just want to say some honors and salutations briefly and get back to some remarks to recognize you guys. And then, I know we'll continue with the day. First off, I want to recognize the World War I Historical Society. I want to call out the United War Veterans Council. I want to call out the East Coast Doughboys also for making this possible. And as was mentioned, these are different. The situation has changed as far as what this Veterans Day looks like compared to the others before it, but our heart and our spirit of what is being celebrated is still the same. For our agency, as was mentioned, the mission is to connect, mobilize, and empower New York City's veteran community. And a part of that is to recognize the culture and the heritage and the traditions and the things that we have done as a group, as veterans, and in particular as New York City veterans, as the Borough Park native, Seymour, not Seymour Spiegel, just Cy. Okay, as Borough Park native Cy Spiegel has done. Cy, on behalf of the City of New York, on behalf of its 210,000 veterans, in addition to their caregivers, their survivors, and their families, we thank you so much for your service, and we honor you today, this Veterans Day. When I look at you and what you've done, I'm speaking up just to, man, come and speak up. When I think about you and the sacrifice you made years ago, enlisting at 18, as has been mentioned, and then just flying, B-17 starting at 20, being a POW, having flown 30.
I was not a POW. I was missing in action.
Forgive me, I'm going to correct that. Being someone who was missing in action. And it's funny the way you say it, it's so nonchalant. There's so many folks who have served who've never had that experience, who've never even gone through that. So just not only being a veteran, but to have that, just to look at everything that you've done in your body of work in the time that you were in service and in the life that you lived afterwards. We are so grateful for you, and just honoring you as a marshal for this parade and for what's going on today. Nowhere near meets the mark in showing how much we are appreciative of what you do and of the sacrifice. And it's not just about you. We recognize that you represent the 16.1 million veterans, or million Americans, who fought in World War II. We recognize that you said this is your granddaughter, right?
One of them.
One of you, how many grandchildren do you have?
Five.
I want to call out, and I'm assuming this has been on your mind at some point as well. There's so many men who went over there, who didn't come back, and who didn't have families, who don't have grandchildren. So many families that were not born, that did not come to be, where there isn't a granddaughter holding an umbrella over her grandfather because of the sacrifice and the depth of the loss and the depth of the willingness that you had back then when you were so young to even know that that might be an outcome. Yet you were still willing to take it. Because so many of those planes that flew over Germany went down, didn't come back. And I know you know that. And recognizing that you put your hand up and that you stood up at a time when it was so critical for our country, for us to protect, and this place was never perfect. It's not perfect now, it wasn't perfect back then. To protect the experiment that is democracy. We appreciate you and we honor you. And you know, I can't say it enough. We thank you so much for what you do, representing all of these veterans. And we appreciate the loved ones around you who supported you, not just your wife and your children and your descendants, but even the people who, I wish I could meet your mother to tell her thank you for giving birth to this man. You know, there's so much that we say as far as we don't recruit people, we recruit families. And that other piece of it that we need to acknowledge. And so, you know, just to start the way I began, just end it the way I began it, on behalf of the city of New York and its veterans, its caregivers, its survivors, its families, all of us, to you and to all who have walked the same road that you walked in being willing to fight and die and take life in order for us to have these things that many take for granted. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and once again, happy veterans. I know we can't shake hands right now. God bless you, brother, and God bless all of you, the city of New York, and God bless the United States. Thanks.
Did I say a few words?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, one other thing before I forget. He was right, sorry. You've got so many mementos, I gotta add one to your kit bag. You know the story of the challenge going better than I do, just to tell it. If anyone sees Sai walking down the street and they ask him if he has his coin, if he has it, that's fine. If he doesn't have it, then he owes that other person a beverage. That's the history of this. And so many words. So other people can say, Kevin can say it better than I can. But, you know, just want to give you this coin on behalf of the city of New York, just recognizing, you know, these services. Yes.
We have one too from the East Coast Doughboys as well.
Yeah.
Got two now.
Get it. This is
I can get two. I was born in Manhattan, about 3 blocks from where I live now, in a hospital that was called the Nursery and Child Hospital, which I believe was also an orphanage. It's not there anymore. The Fordham Law School is on that site now. I grew up in Borough Park, and Borough Park was not the Borough Park that's there today. It was totally different. Both of my parents were immigrants who arrived in this country in January 1914. Neither one, they didn't come at the same time. It was just a coincidence that they both arrived in January 1914. They met here in this country. And as immigrants, they raised 3 sons, all of whom served in the military during the youngest months after World War II. And my older brother was in the Pacific. I, as you know, flew out of England. The missing in action was something that for almost 3 months we were in Poland, not being able to fly back to our base. And eventually dictator had taken over Germany. And that dictator, not Jewish, and that dictator was killing Jews and many others, not just Jews, gypsies, gay people, you name it, people with handicaps, killing them all. Today I believe that there's a would-be dictator in this country, and I think we have to beware that that would-be dictator would take over the country just the way Hitler did. And I think it is more dangerous than any of us think. And so I hope, we all have the ability to resist what we need. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming out today to this little ceremony we held. Hopefully this time next year we can be marching up Fifth Avenue. Please join us for a celebration on the west side. Thank you very much.